So we are now using inputs to make the user component more reusable, but with the current implementation, we'll face a problem. I'm convincing TypeScript, with help of this exclamation mark here, that we will definitely receive values for avatar and name. And we would get an error if I were to remove this exclamation mark. The problem is, however, well, technically there is no such guarantee. Of course, we are always setting the avatar and name property, but let's say for some reason we forget it on one instance of our component. Something that could happen when we write our code. If I forget it, you see that now we have a problem here. The username is of course missing. It is of course missing because I forgot it for one user. Now, of course, this is an error that's fairly easy to catch and fix, and that's why we're testing the applications we're building. But it's still an error that actually doesn't have to happen like this. Because Angular allows us to configure those input values, those input properties. We can pass a configuration object to this @input thing, and then just as with the component, where we also got various configuration options, we have some options we can set here. Now I'll revisit the alias and transform options later, but I want to use the required option right now already. Because if you set required to true, you're telling Angular that this property must be set. And that's now in line with what we're telling TypeScript, that there definitely will be a value. Because without required true, we're actually telling TypeScript a lie. We're telling TypeScript that there will definitely be a string value when that's actually not guaranteed, as we see here. With that required configuration added and set to true, that changes. Because now I'll actually get an error right here in my IDE when I forget to set one of the required properties. I get an error that the required input name from the component user component must be specified. Well, and therefore now I can simply re-add it, and errors like this are easier to catch and fix. We can essentially catch and fix them during development already, and we don't have to wait until we test the application. That's why this configuration, and especially this required option, is a pretty important feature you should be aware of.